Grindr and dating apps for a queer person of colour is a cesspit where all your confidence goes to die. Like, the standard of beauty you have to achieve to be considered attractive
have to be, like,
is
stunning
so much higher. And
yeah.
also, a lot of the time, you need to have Eurocentric features. I ran through people, I ran through parties, I ran through different personalities, and in all of that, I was really running away from myself. Sobriety wasn't just the next step, it was the only step I could really take. I'm not here to be a fucking role model to anyone.
No.
Like, the fact that I happen to be a brown gay man on television is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing I don't want to be doing is playing those cards being reduced just to my protected characteristics. I'm not on the fucking show because I'm a token. I'm here because I'm fucking great television.
Do you have to be rich? Hi, Kabir.
Hey girls, how are we?
Good, thank you for coming. Welcome
Thank
to
you for having me.
Avoiding My Actually Attached Boyfriend. I want to jump straight into it because, like, now that we were talking before we started recording, I'm, like, interested.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll get into lots of different topics, but I want to talk about, we've recently realised you're in Made in Chelsea.
Yes, that is a new development in my life.
How did that actually start? How did you go on the show?
How did it all happen?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
So it all came about in quite a funny way. I got a text from my friend who was working as a freelance casting producer.
Okay.
Casting agent, I don't know. She was casting for the show.
Okay.
And it was one of those moments where I was like, this can either be a funny little anecdote of a conversation I once had about, I got asked to be on Made in Chelsea, or it could be the moment that potentially changes my life. So I was like, you know what? Put me on that fucking list. And the thing is, I'd always wanted to be a TV presenter. Or before that, when I was like 13, 14, I wanted to be a YouTuber content creator.
Oh,
but
cool.
it was never something I actually really gave a go. And I kind of started my job, love my career that I'm building, but this fell into my lap and I was like, Kabir, this is the universe telling you the thing you wanted to do,
it's coming.
there's a way to it.
Don't miss the
So
opportunity.
don't miss the fucking opportunity
Yeah.
because you're going to regret it if you do. And so I was like, fuck it.
That's so cool.
Were you
Okay.
nervous? Like, what was the feelings before you first? You were like, oh my god, like.
Do you know what? I did not know how I was going to be on camera.
Okay.
I thought I was either going to freeze or I would become like a defense mechanism version of myself where I was like overly bitchy and very like high school mean girl version of myself.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect.
Oh, interesting.
And part of me was really worried that a side of me would come out that wasn't necessarily reflective of the person that I am now. And the cameras came on and it was the most natural fucking thing.
She's born for
It was one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah.
And it just felt right. And I remember when the cameras stopped rolling, the producers were like, have you done this before? Because you're not meant to have done telly before. And I was like, no, this is my first time. And they were like, oh, and I'm sure they say this to everyone.
That was
But
cute.
they were like, yeah, you're kind of a natural at this. And I was like, fuck yes. And
What was the first scene?
so the first scene was basically me being introed to a few of the girls. So I was already friends with Paris and Zaino.
Okay.
Paris and Zaino were having drinks with Yaz. And so I just came and joined them for drinks, kind of introduced myself a little bit.
Okay.
Then Yaz was having some problems with formulating a business idea and getting some clear focus on that.
So do they come up with like the storyline, or do you got like? Do you know what I mean? Because that
So
feels
it's
a
not
bit random.
scripted. That's always the
Okay.
first question I get.
Yeah.
Is it scripted? The show isn't scripted. So it's constructed reality. So we tell the producers how we feel. We tell them what's going on in our lives. And they will then set up the situations for us to have those conversations.
Okay.
So nothing is fake in that regard. You're seeing our real lives. You're
Yeah.
really seeing how we feel. And you'll see what's really going on in our minds and interpersonally.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
beyond that, none of it is set up.
Right. That's interesting because a lot of people like that have been on the show. Because I used to watch it a lot, like in the,
Yes,
in the
back in its
olden
heyday.
days.
It's having
Yeah.
a renaissance now, though, I must say.
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked it. I thought it was like a good show, but and I remember a lot of people, I think like Louise had spoken, Cheska had spoken about the fact that they really like keep you from having dramatic moments with your friends until you're on camera, to the point where you're not really meant to text them about things, like you're meant to do it all on camera.
Yeah,
shown,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that very quickly you develop a certain understanding.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm on the phone to like Jazz, for example, and we know it's something we're likely going to be talking about on camera, both of us will say to each other, let's save it for the camera.
Oh really? Oh, you
Yeah,
do
and
do
we
that?
understand
Oh,
that.
cool.
We
Yeah.
understand that at the end of the day, we have a really close friendship, and that friendship is really important to us. At the same time, we're making a bloody television show.
Yeah.
And so there's no point rehashing that conversation because then what you see on the telly won't be realistic.
And you don't want to almost like in a weird way get caught out that you've already had that conversation. If you're not
100%,
very,
yeah.
if you're not very good at like
Exactly.
faking it, it'll be
yeah,
obvious. Yeah,
and I'm
that's-
terrible at faking it. So
Okay. Good to
The
know. Good to know.
yeah, so it's one of those things where you really kind of have that mutual understanding. Now, I guess the thing is, I've not really had much drama this season, and that was very intentional from my side. I knew going into my first season, I didn't want to get too stuck into the drama, and I didn't want to get too stuck into dating until I had really found my feet on that show. Because I think if you blindly side with people before you get to know them, that person might screw you over the next day.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't know them, do you? Like, they are cast members.
Well, no,
aren't
so I did know Paris and
yeah,
Zaino
sorry,
beforehand,
yeah.
and then I used to be friends with Jazz's older brother like 12 years ago,
Oh,
kind of
okay,
thing.
Okay, so there's connections.
So there
in
are
some
connections.
way.
It's not like I was a complete foreigner to the group, right? And then you come in, you get to know everyone. But yeah, you're right. For the vast majority of the cast, I didn't really know them at all.
Yeah.
And so I want to spend my first season really finding out who I fucked with, who I wasn't as close with, and so that the next season I can really hit the ground running.
Oh my god, I need to find out the tea off camera.
Okay, yeah, sure, we can discuss that.
Because I want to say stuff too. I like the little inside knowledge.
Yeah. So like I've been asked to do a lot of reality television before Made in Chelsea. So I got asked to do Celebs Go Dating. I got asked to do Rich Kids Go Skint. I got asked to do the season of Married.
Sorry,
I
that's
love
such a funny title.
So good.
I got asked to do the season of Married at First Sight that recently aired. So I've been asked to do a lot of it, but that doesn't mean that I got really, really far ahead in that casting process.
Yeah,
I always kind of had a rule, which was I'll never do reality television unless I'm hosting it. And then Made in Chelsea came about, and I was like, you know what? This has always kind of been the one exception to the rule.
Okay.
Because I grew up watching that show.
Yeah,
Like, I watched
yeah.
that show when I was 13 with my dad. And I remember the first ever episode, like, and I hadn't watched it in a really, really long time, but
Yeah.
that was always the one show that I was like, this is my exception.
Okay.
And so when it came about,
And the gay representation as well
Yeah, I
is
was gonna-
really good
I was
from
gonna
the
talk
beginning.
about that. I was going to talk about like being a person of color and gay representation because I
Yeah.
feel like Made in Chelsea was very like white at one point, and then it like slowly developed some
Yeah.
yeah,
culture.
I mean, I think the producers on Chelsea are really, really amazing. Like, they've
Mm.
really gone leaps and bounds to really show parts of ourselves that we want to show on television. So they were
Yeah.
very comfortable with me talking about my sobriety. They were very comfortable with Robbie and Joel, who were previously on, talking about opening up their relationship. Paris has talked about her experience as a black woman, especially with her journey with her hair.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
really do make space and time for you to talk about things that the general public, especially like a largely white demographic, may not be privy to.
Yeah.
And I really have to commend them for that. Like,
Yeah.
it was, when I told them I wanted to talk about my 1 year sober, it wasn't a question. They were like, yeah, sure, do it.
Yeah,
And
That's so good.
they've been really, really accommodating in that regard.
So do you feel like there was any pressure on you to go in as like gay representation and Asian represent? Like, did you feel any of that, or was it quite natural?
No, I'm not here to be a fucking role model to anyone.
No.
Like, the fact that I happen to be a brown gay man on television is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing I don't want to be doing is playing those cards being reduced just to my protected characteristics. Because those are things about myself that I can't help. Who I am is what I am. And that means I can, I'm an inherent contradiction. I can be the loudest person in the room and I can also be the shyest. I can be the kindest and I can be the most cunty little bitch you've ever met. Like, the fact is that
Balance.
I'm not here to be that role model. If you happen to see me as a role model and there are parts of my character that you admire, fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah.
And yes, a big part of that will be informed by my experience as a gay, queer, non-binary person in the UK, right? But I'm not here to be like, I just realized your logo is the Grindr colours.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's the message colours.
That's what we did, that on purpose.
Yeah, that was
That was-
definitely.
I feel like I spent a bit too much time on that.
That is so funny. Because
Did
my
not.
favourite colour is orange and his is like turquoise, so we kind of just like...
A match made in heaven.
Yeah.
We're Grindr, high five.
Yay.
Um,
That's so good.
Like, obviously I understand that. Actually, no, the one thing I don't, like, I'm here to be that representation. I'm more than happy to be that representation. What I don't want is, if I were to fuck up on television, if I were to do something that weren't necessarily appropriate, I don't want me to be representative of an entire community to the
Yeah.
extent that it's like, oh, if I'm like that, all of them must be like that. Because
and
that's
people
not
jump
the case.
on that as well,
They do.
especially
Exactly.
in media. Like, one person is like now the spokesperson of a whole
Exactly,
community.
and I'm not here to do that because there are such a wide array of experiences which I have no fucking right to talk about. You know, like, for example, I consider myself to be non-binary. He, they, but non-binary nonetheless. And for me, that is a label that only really exists for me.
Yeah.
In the sense that I use the term non-binary because it helps me understand my relation to gender expression. But to the rest of the world, I appear and I pass and I exist as a man. And I'm fully aware of that. And so I get the full extent of privileges that a cis man would get. Right? So the term non-binary for me for me, has always been a personal label through which I have understood my relationship to gender norms and gender expression. But I would then never be like, because I'm non-binary, I can speak for the whole array of trans experiences, because that's nowhere near the case. In fact, I am very much existing, living my life as a straight man. Not as a straight man, fucking hell. As a cis man, you know?
Yeah.
And so in that same regard, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to put that pressure on myself or that responsibility to represent an entire community.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, like people clump it together. Like even non-binary gender expression, like with trans, it's not necessarily the same thing, but people would just
umbrella term it. Yeah.
100%. And I think that's the other thing also is what you said was quite nice. You don't want to almost downplay or downgrade your experiences and all you've achieved with just like ticking a box of race or ticking a box of sexuality.
It's like, should I tell you what? I'm not on the fucking show because I'm a token. I'm here because I'm fucking great television. I'll tell you that right now. And that's not to be cocky. That's because I know how I build relationships. I know what I bring to the table. Actually, I bring the table to you, kind of thing. And the thing is, you have to go in with that level of confidence if you're trying to make a career out of it. And I'm really enjoying it. It's really fun. This season is really light touch. You'll see me in about half the episodes for a few minutes at a time. But I'm really glad that I did it that way because I didn't want to go in all guns blazing. I wanted to go in, find my feet, figure out who I fuck with. And that next season, you'll catch me getting stuck in.
So you're going to come back?
More. Oh, yeah, no, I'm definitely going to be back for a while.
Okay.
That's
I'm
quite
excited
fun.
It'll be good.
to see.
Do you have to be rich?
Do you know, I think that you definitely
have to have
you definitely
money.
no. I don't think it's about how much money you have, but it's definitely about the social circles you run in. It's definitely about the education that you had. So I was really lucky to go to a really fabulous school, and so through that I've always had tangential links to that circle and that kind of world. I've come from a very interesting background where my dad is very middle class and has done very, very well for himself. My grandparents immigrated to this country with literally no money. My granddad started up his own business, done incredibly well. On the flip side, my mum is a teacher. She doesn't make much money at all. And so I've always experienced two very different sides of life. One which was extremely privileged and one which was very normal, very hand to mouth. And
Does that make you more humble, would you say?
I mean, like, I'm a Delulu bitch, so I don't think anything could make me that humble, to be completely frank with you. But what it has done is it's given me a huge amount of fucking perspective. It's taught me that, to be honest, fine, the money and all of that stuff and all that fabulousness is great. And I'm a materialistic bitch. I will never deny that, you know? I love my clothes. I love playing dress up. I love nice things. At the same time, when push comes to shove, none of it really matters. The only thing that really matters is the connections we have in this life, the people that we love, and our physical bodies insofar as it allows us to maintain and have those connections. And so while I definitely have had a very privileged upbringing, and it would be a complete lie to say, oh, I haven't, half of my life has also been spent with me, my sister, and my mum cramped in a 2-bed flat. Like, and so I've definitely had, I've had both sides of the coin, and I wouldn't change that for a second. I've got to see both sides of life. I've got to meet and live with and experience so many different types of people from all parts of the world, all different backgrounds. And I think that that's hopefully made me a bit more of a rounded human being, you know?
I'd rather my mum be rich than my dad, I think.
Honestly, same, because mum spoils me a hell of a lot more than dad ever did. I'm like, mum.
Because my dad would just be like, you still need to make your own money. You still need to.
Well, that's exactly what my dad's been like. He's been like to me, like, Kabir, he joined the family business, but he made it what it is today. And I never personally wanted to get into it, but he's always said to me, look, I fucking hustled to get where I am today, and I expect you to do the same. And yeah, fine, he spent a fucking arm and a leg on my education, and he was like, I've given you the biggest tool in life, and it's the one thing no one can ever take away from you, so you make the fucking most of it. And do I wish that he had spoiled me a little bit more? 100%. At the same time, I am so grateful for it, because it is a mindset and an attitude which means I will fucking hustle for things I want because I've had a taste of the good life, but it's not been my whole life.
And let's go further, I feel.
I mean, I would consider myself a very ambitious and very driven person. So
So you have to be rich. To answer the question, Kabir is rich, and so is everyone else.
What was your upbringing like with your sexuality? Like, how was that with the family?
So I always say that I knew from a very young age. The second I came out my mum, I said, I'm never going back on one of those again. like I have known from day dot, and the real question was whether I liked girls. Spoiler alert, I fucking don't. I fucking
You do
wish
like girls.
Oh yeah. I'm not.
Sexually,
We're
not so
not,
much.
we're not some Andrew Tate shit. Like I love my woman. My woman raised me. But the thing is that I've actually been really lucky in that regard. I came out at 13, 14, so I came out really early.
young,
Wow.
yeah.
And I came out at an all boys school where my mindset was they can't scare me if I scare them first. So I was very lucky that when I came out, my group of boys were super sweet. They were
Okay.
super supportive. They did not care. They had my corner the whole fucking time. No one ever
Nice.
tried to bully
Okay.
me. If they did, I would bully them 10 times harder.
I feel like you have that at school because I remember like me and my friend. Sorry to interrupt
No,
that.
go for it.
But like he had a thing with him where if someone was mean about his sexuality, he would tear them down to the point where
Yeah,
they would never even think.
We
of
know
saying
we
something
know how to
back.
read a bitch down.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like we do. Like fine, we may not develop like fists, but we have sharp tongues. And we know how to
Yeah.
cut.
And then they just won't do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then with my family, again, I was super lucky. My dad literally came into the living room one day, and I was sitting there. I remember I was watching like Family Guy and eating pizza, and he was like, "Kabir, are you gay?" And I was like, "I'm watching TV right now. Can you leave me alone?" And he was like, "Yeah, well, like my hairdresser told me you were gay."
Oh,
And
I
I
was
was
like,
like-
because you're watching Family Guy.
Yeah,
I was like,
"That is the gayest way to be outed by a fucking hairdresser." But he was like, "So like, are you gay though?" And I was like, "Dad, I'm watching TV." And he was like, "Yeah, but are you gay?" And he just wouldn't leave me alone. And he was like, "Kabir, are you gay?" And I turned around and I was like, "Yes, I like dick. Can I go back to watching TV?" And he was like, "All right, cool." And that
Oh,
was
wow.
it. And then I
That was
called
your
him-
dad?
Yeah, and he was
That's
like, "Cool."
so good.
Never gave a shit. Was like, and he's like a proper like lad. And
Okay.
he was just so supportive from the offset. Like he's had like clients of his make homophobic comments, and he's been like, "Get the fuck out of my office," kind of thing.
okay.
He was like, "My son's gay. Like, you have no right speaking like that here."
Yeah.
And then with the rest of my family, I actually just called him up drunk one day when I was like 16. And I was like, "Dad, can you just tell them all for me?" And I've done this big thing of outsourcing the work when it came to coming out. Business minded. But Dad would be proud of me. So I was like, "Dad, can you just tell them?" Great. I woke up the next day with a hangover being like, "Great, the whole family now knows I'm gay." Easy.
wow, okay.
Done.
Okay.
And then with my friends, two of them kind of outed me to everyone else, which I talk about on the show a little bit. But
Okay.
for a lot of people, that would have been quite like a traumatic experience. For me, it was, again, great. They were super excited to have a gay friend. They were like, "Hi, this is Kabir. He's gay."
Yeah.
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 But great, it did the heavy lifting for me.
Yeah.
And the real part of that journey has actually been coming in. So I came out at 13, which meant that the only real representation at that time was kind of like your Mean Girls type of gay.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And that was an expectation that I thought I had to live up to, especially because from a very young age, I dealt with severe mental health issues. I dealt with quite a turbulent family life growing up. I dealt with a lot of things that really put me in a place where I had a lot of really big fucking feelings. And I didn't know how to deal with them, and I didn't know how to face them. So I developed this persona. And it was the bitchy gay. It was mean. It was witty.
Really?
Yeah. For a long time, that's who I was, and it was a
lot of
defense
people fall
mechanism.
into that, I feel.
But I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I find you really funny, but I'm struggling to
But
see.
imagine
bitchy.
like a 19-year-old twink at heaven.
Okay.
That was me at 13.
Like you were like judgy and like
Judgy,
Yeah.
bitchy, because I fucking hated myself.
Okay.
And I was
Okay.
angry.
Oh.
I was such an angry kid.
Oh.
And I carried that with me for so long. And the majority of my late teens and early 20s has been unpicking who I actually am from the version of myself that I thought I had to be. And that's not to say that part of me isn't flamboyant and isn't really like, you know, out over the top and really fun.
Yeah.
And that is part of me. That's not to say that that part of me was fake or a lie. Like all of us, I can take fucking multitudes, and I am the totality of my experiences. I think a lot of us tend to view ourselves in extremes. So when we're really confident, we think that the most insecure version of ourselves is a farce. And when we're feeling really insecure, we think that the most confident version of ourselves is something that we fake and pretend and put on. And a big part of me growing up is realizing I'm both of those things.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
both that very confident person. I'm both that very insecure person. And I can hold both in the same hand.
Yeah.
And I can be that. And so a big part of it has been coming to realize who I actually am. And sorry, I'm rambling now.
No, but
yeah.
but it's interesting. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in
Not
being
at all.
insecure. There's no shame in being there is
Because I'm both.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
inherent fucking contradictions. And I
Yeah.
think that's the most beautiful thing about human nature.
Yeah.
That so many of us often forget is that we are truly the totality of our experiences. We are both.
Yeah.
And we are both in a lot of different ways. I can be the smartest person in the room, and I can also be the dumbest bitch you'll ever meet. Like, and I think that applies to all of us at different times, depending on how we are, who we're with, how we're feeling on any one type of day. And we're not one or the other, we're both, and that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I've said both like a million times. Fucking hell.
both. We are all walking contradictions, and I think that is the best thing about it. Is sometimes I feel like people will have an opinion so strong and like hold it so strongly, and I'm like, but like, and it's fine, we all do it, but I'm always aware when I have an opinion, like 5 years time, my opinion probably changes
from
on
your
that.
experience.
I think my favorite type of person is a conscious hypocrite. It's the kind of person who can be like, okay, upon further reflection, whatever I said 5 minutes ago was fucking wrong. And actually, this is how I feel now. It's the ability
100%.
to consider, to reflect, to change. And also sometimes just to be like, yeah, I'm being a fucking hypocrite. What can I say?
We do that all the time. I feel like, we'll have like a really strong opinion about something, and then later we'll be like, do you know, that's probably
actually
a little bit
overreacted.
Maybe a little.
That's so interesting. Okay, well, I'm surprised that your family took it so well, because I feel
I'm
like...
surprised too.
is there no... Like, are they still connected to their cultures, or would you say they are?
Massively so. My mum, weirdly enough, I think took it the hardest, in the sense that she never really cared, in that she took it personally. But I think there was this big thing, and I think the big part of Asian culture is, oh, what will other people think of me?
Yeah.
What will other people think of the family?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, actually, it's wrong when we say that's Asian culture, because that exists in all cultures in different ways.
Yeah.
When we look at like England, especially within like your upper middle class kind of circles, a lot of it is, oh, what will society say? Like, fuck off. But
that's true. Yeah.
And so that's a pervasive thing across a huge variety of cultures. But I remember one time with my this was a few years ago before my mother's partner passed. And we were going for dinner with his family, and she was like, don't wear your handbag. And like, I'm a handbag kind of bitch. You will never, like, a woman is never sure at night. You know. So I remember getting there, and I had my handbag, because I was like, no, I do not care if they don't accept me for, you know, a little Chanel bag. That is their problem, their lack of taste. But I remember the whole family being like to my mum, like, why would you say you couldn't wear that? Like, he looks fabulous with it. And so I've been accepted throughout, over and over and over again.
That's
and my mum sometimes has these hesitations, but that's very much to do with her, because she's preoccupied with what other people think of her.
Yeah. Sometimes your parents worry so much about the rest of the family, and they are.
Yeah.
I think of like your example as well, like a lot of your family were accepting quite quickly.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
And that you end up worrying more than what it's actually like.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like the fear of it is a lot worse. I guess that's anxiety.
And I think you already know a lot of the time as well. Like a lot of your family will have an idea about you.
Oh, honey, I think since I came out, I've become less visibly gay. Which is saying a lot, given how much of a... Can I say the F slur? But... I mean, like, I used to literally put on my, like, grandmother's, like, heels, a little blonde wig, and I pretend I was Hannah Montana. You know?
You did that last week.
There was more than a wig in the closet, but, like, you know.
Are you quite close to your grandma?
Oh, my God, I'm so close. So, on my dad's side, I'm, like, inseparable.
Really?
Like, she is my guiding light. She is my beacon. She is my
that's so
everything.
fun.
She is my biggest supporter, my biggest fan. She still has no clue what Made in Chelsea's and still thinks I've gone on Big Brother. But, like,
same.
You know, basically all the same. She's like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, you have nothing to be proud of. Like,
I can't believe you're an X Factor. It's great.
literally that. But no, I am so lucky to have my grandmother.
Oh, that's cute.
She has been, she's my everything. She's my complete fucking rock.
Amazing.
She's a big part of the reason that I'm as comfortable in being the person I am today.
Oh, that's cute. We love that.
Yeah.
Let me feel fuzzy.
Yeah. Little tater vibes. We love that. Okay, so you said in the past, like, you struggled with, like, mental health.
Yeah.
And some turbulent. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? Or
yeah, definitely. So, like, from a very young age, and I'm not sure whether it was nature or nurture, I'm kind of the belief that it was a little bit of both. I was predisposed to a few issues which ended up, due to certain life circumstances, being really heavily exacerbated. From the age of like 7 or 8, I started feeling like pretty fucking severe depression. And it got really bad when I was like 13. I had my first real bad spiral with it. And it kind of was an on and off thing up until about my first or second year of uni. And at that point, it took a real nosedive where my first year of university, for the first 6 months, I just locked myself in my room. Like, as in, I didn't see sunlight for about 6 months.
Right.
And I was cooped up in my room. I would only go out at night, party, come back, live in my, you know, and it was a very toxic cycle, which I caught myself in. It took me to some real dark fucking places, like as dark as it can get a few times over. When I was about 22, 23, and I began to emerge out of it, it became abundantly clear that the only choice I had was to go on a very conscious journey of healing. And that began with me basically the second I finished uni, leaving all my shit behind, going to India and going to live in the Himalayas, which admittedly, very privileged thing to be able to do. I went and lived in like a yoga retreat for like 2 months, accidentally became a qualified yoga teacher. But
Accidentally.
yeah, no, I didn't. So I didn't realize it was a yoga training school.
Oh.
I thought it was like a cute little yoga retreat.
Yeah,
I get there on the first day, and they go around a circle being like, how long have you all been doing yoga for? Everyone's like, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. I'm like, 32 hours. And they were like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I was like, isn't this a cute little yoga retreat? And they were like, no, this is an intensive fucking yoga school.
Oh.
Is it in Rishikesh?
Yes, in Rishikesh.
Oh, I love. Okay.
Yeah, it was incredible. And yeah, so did that. And it was like 4 hours of yoga a day, waking up at 5 a.m. every day. And fine, while I'm like incredibly shit at yoga still, I'm technically a qualified teacher though, but while I'm like still really shit at yoga, the one thing it taught me was discipline, or at least it was the beginnings of learning discipline. And then from there, I started reading up a lot more about like Eastern philosophy, reading a lot more about like how New Age philosophy interacts with that. So like the power of now, presence, mindfulness, all of that really basic stuff which your doctor normally tells you to do, and you're like, fuck off, I'm dying out here.
Yeah.
But just learning to kind of sit with the feelings. And it was a real up and down journey up until last year where I decided to go sober.
Okay.
And with sobriety's been the game changer.
Okay.
And I think before I went sober, long before I ever picked up a drink though, I had these really big feelings. And I spent a lot of time shrouded in a lot of darkness and a lot of grief. And I think I did what a lot of people do, which is that I ran through people, I ran through parties, I ran through different personalities. And in all of that, I was really running away from myself. And it became abundantly clear that sobriety wasn't just the next step. It was the only step I could really take. And the one thing I've learned about sobriety is that it's not just about not drinking. It's about returning to myself again and again and again. It's about staying with myself in those moments where I want to run, where I want to hide. And it made me confront a lot of these demons that I'd spent years running from. And I very quickly realized that a lot of these demons weren't as scary as I thought.
Yeah.
And that I just had to hold their hands and walk through hell with them.
Yeah.
And in the last year, my life has opened up. I have healed so much. I have developed a confidence that I did not think someone like me could have.
Because did like the alcohol mask like make you feel confident?
Yes, but it
In a
also
way,
just
right?
numbed it. Like, this is the thing, is that like, I don't even think I was running to something else. I think I was just avoiding everything.
Okay.
I wanted to numb everything. I did not want to feel. I wanted to turn my brain off because my brain moved at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And that was something that used to scare me, and now it's my biggest superpower. And in that, I'm so grateful for the people I've met over the last year who have held me through this new phase of my life. And I'm so grateful for the people who put up with a decade of madness before it. I am so grateful for the fact that I'm now able to show up authentically for the people in my life that I care about. I'm able to be there for my family. I'm able to be there for my friends in a very genuine way. And I'm very grateful for the person that I found underneath all of the things that I was running from and hiding from. And am I a perfect person? Absolutely fucking not. I am a messy little shit. But I'm, for the first time in my life, proud of the person that I'm becoming, and I'm proud of the person that I am. And that's a fucking cool feeling for someone who spent more than a decade hating themselves.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Sorry, that was quite a ramble.
No, I love that.
I think there's a lot of things that like when you say, because you said you suffered when you were like 7 and 8. And
that
then,
was when I first started feeling like really severe depression. And I mean, like,
what is depression? Like, how did that feel to you? Because I feel like people don't realize it sometimes.
So for me, I've had probably like a vast array of different depressive symptoms, all from a numbness to a complete disengagement with the things I enjoy. And like, I have experienced that full range of depressive symptoms. And with that came anxiety. With that came, and like anxiety ranging from I'm feeling nervous to I can't leave the house, I can't leave my bed. I've had depression where it's just walking down the street and not being able to feel anything, and it's depression where I've been in my bed for weeks and not being able to brush my teeth. I've experienced that full fucking array. And while I can't guarantee that I will never have a depressive episode, the last few years have given me the tools, the community, the connections to be able to pull myself out of it much, much quicker, and to be able to identify a spiral when it's about to happen.
You know, like the telltale signs before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a big part of that has been through spiritual practice. A big part of it has also just been changing the fucking programming in my mind.
Yeah.
Changing the mindset. For a long time, I did not believe I was someone who was capable of the things that I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
For a long time, I did not believe that I was going to have the life that or was deserving of the life, the love, all these incredible things that I have in my life. You change the fucking programming. You change the fucking mindset. And that takes time, and it's not something you can always do when you're in a depressive mindset. And it's not about toxic positive thinking. I think that's bullshit. What it is, though, is, you know, the baddest bitches can have down days.
Yeah.
But how does a bad bitch have a down day?
I love
And
that.
that's
Give
what
it
it
Meg the
is.
Stallion.
Yeah.
That's what it fucking is.
Yeah.
It's, I'm struggling right now. I'm going to take socks. I'm boiling.
It's
That's
okay.
all right. It is hot in here.
It is a
massive
little bit
sweat
hot.
patches?
No,
No,
you're
you're
good.
good.
Don't look.
Show off those guns, baby.
Yes.
I've been a fat tramp. I've been avoiding the gym for a week, but
Same.
I
love
think
the tattoos.
Thank you.
Oh, they're
I'm
so
kind of
nice.
covered in them.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm here for them.
So I started getting them when I was like, I think 17, 18. And yeah, I've got like 20 now. I go to one artist for everything, who's incredible.
What's your
That's
most
amazing.
painful?
Oh,
that
the
you-
one on my shin. So
Oh,
it's not
this
fin-
is
it's not finished
cool.
yet. It's a Nietzsche quote, which is "Amor fati memento mori." You can tell I did a philosophy degree, but and it's basically the idea of that is to be totally in love with your fate and remember that you must die. So the idea is that to view everything that happens in your life, whether it's good or bad, as part of the necessary journey,
Right.
and being able to reframe it in a positive light. And I'm a big believer in nothing is happening to me, everything is happening for me. If it doesn't make sense now, it will eventually, because I don't think that there's such a thing as a right decision. It's about making the decision right for you at every
Yeah.
fucking turn.
Yeah,
100%.
and it kind of suits what we were talking about. 'Cause
Yeah.
At the time, like there was something you said about during your uni days where it's like you stay in all day and go out at night. I think I did have a phase of that during uni, and that's why I was interested.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized maybe I was depressed
Yeah,
at that point, but I
it
didn't
can
know
creep
that.
up on you like a vicious little bitch.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's there.
Yeah.
And suddenly you don't know what to do with it. And suddenly it's actually more comforting than going out. And this is the thing. The brain will choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven
100%.
over and over again.
Yeah.
And that, you know, there are tendencies. And I think this even relates to like attachment styles. I would consider myself a healing, anxiously attached person, right?
Okay.
And I still notice tendencies that cause me to want to slip back into my old patterns, my old behaviors. And it's about stopping myself and being like, absolutely the fuck not.
Because your brain is always just trying to protect you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's all it's trying to
And
do.
it
But
doesn't
sometimes
necessarily know how to, because we
Exactly.
grow up and we develop these defense mechanisms. We develop patterns of behavior that worked for a certain point in our lives, often childhood. And then we grow up and those patterns no longer work for us.
Yeah.
And our brain doesn't know that yet. And a
Yeah.
big part of that is inner child work. A big part of that is holding your hand and being like, you're safe now. You did this to protect us, and I'm not gonna, you know, make you feel shit for it. And holding a lot of compassion for yourself. This is the thing. I think toxic positivity is get your ass up. You're bigger than this. You're better. Fuck no.
Yeah.
You need compassion. You need to be soft. And then from there, you can get yourself to a point where it's like, okay, now let's motivate the fuck out of ourselves. But it has to begin with compassion. I think a lot of people lose out on that part because we don't know how to be compassionate to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that has been the greatest thing that I've learned, is learning to both be compassionate with myself, but also not make excuses for myself.
Yeah, that's the hard. When does self-care become like enablement?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's quite
100%.
hard to like know the difference of like, okay, I'm self-caring and compassionate. I'm not gonna push myself to go out today, but then it's like, how many days are you not gonna go out? And
Yeah.
at what point are you now enabling this fear to kind of
Yeah.
get worse and worse?
Anxiety and intuition are a really tough thing.
Yeah.
When you're an anxiously prone person, it's really hard to tell the difference between the two. And often what I've learned is that my intuition is the thing that feels hard. Anxiety is the thing that feels scary. So it's if something feels hard or difficult, that's almost certainly the choice I should be making,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
it's my brain wanting to choose the easy route. Now, if something feels in my gut, this is actually bad, that's probably anxiety. And the question is, I then have to tear apart what part of that is anxiety in a way that's self-protection, and what part of that is that enablement.
Yeah, I think that's hard because I also think our emotions, like most of them are lies.
Yeah.
So you have to try and decipher at which point your brain is lying to you and which point you're feeling a genuine emotion. Because the emotions and feelings are different. So your emotions is like something that happens to you without you knowing. And then
It's a bodily response.
Yeah, and then your feeling is like the thought behind that emotion. And I think that's quite
But
hard to
I
decipher.
think you've got to separate the two. You've got to separate the thought from the emotion, because the thought can be dangerous. I think the thought can be a lot more dangerous than the emotion. The emotion is your body's way of indicating, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what's going on. For whatever the reason, for how valid or how unreasonable it may or may not be, this is how my body is reacting.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that's fine, because you'd be like, okay, let's sit with this emotion, but let's also be rational about it. I don't have to let myself get into that thought loop. I don't have to let myself get into that spiral. I can just separate the thought from the emotion, pause the thinking, trying to be present with my body in that emotion without letting my thoughts go wild. When that emotion has passed through me, then I can look back at my thoughts. And actually, your mind is a tool, yet more often than not, our mind uses us.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing. And I like it because I think everything does happen for a reason.
I'm a big believer in that.
Like going through anxiety or depression eventually gives you that strength to do what you need to do in the future, or will lead you in some way to what you're doing or how you're doing it.
Well, let me put it like this, is that like, I don't think had I not gone through all the mental health issues that I've gone through, I would be able to do the show now. Because I wouldn't be sober, firstly. And if I wasn't sober, I don't think I'd be able to handle the potential pressure of being in, I wouldn't say the public eye, that's a bit big for my boots, but in the public, like, peripheral vision right now. Let's put it like that. I don't think that I would be able to be there for my friends in the way that I want to be. I don't think that I would be the person that I am now, who's as ambitious, as driven. And, for me, if I want to do something, I wake up and I fucking do it these days.
Yeah.
And that's fucking fab. I don't think I would have the career that I have outside of the whole TV and media stuff. I don't think I would have been able to ever set up my event stuff and do my club nights. It's like my whole life is now beautiful and amazing because I went through that hell. And because if I ever return to that fucking hell, well, great, I have a season ticket, baby.
Yeah.
I know my way out.
Yeah.
I know how to walk through this hell. And I can hold my hand through it, and I will come out stronger again and again and again. And eventually I won't have to go to that hell anymore. And I honestly, at this point in my life, I don't go to hell anymore.
Yeah.
I'm in a very happy place. I'm one of the happiest people I know. And that's a really beautiful thing to be able to say.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not as scary, the hell, if you do it again, because you've already done it and you've proven to yourself you can do it.
Exactly.
It's never going to be as deep. But Made in Chelsea is quite interesting because a lot of people spoke about how it's hard to stay sober on that show and how people...
A lot of people off the backs of that show have gone sober. So like Millie McIntosh has gone sober, Spencer Matthews has gone sober, Frederick Ferrier has gone sober.
I didn't realise it was so alcohol centric.
Do you know what? I think back in the day it definitely was.
And to get through those situations as well, I think it's easy to numb.
Well, I think because they're quite high intensity, but on top of that, you're doing it in front of the entire bloody country, right?
Yeah, and you have loads of people commenting after.
You have a lot of people's opinions who know nothing about your life,
yeah,
who know nothing about the actual intricacies of it all, seeing a highlight reel of it, right?
Yeah.
And then basing an opinion. We sign ourselves up for that. No one is denying that. We sign ourselves up for that. The good, the bad, and the ugly, because what they show is the truth.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
The producers aren't... There's no blaming on the edit with Made in Chelsea.
Yeah.
If you were a cunt, I promise you, on the show, you were definitely a cunt in real life. The producers aren't playing those fucking games.
Yeah.
They're very fucking real. But at the same time, yeah, fine, you're in the public eye. That's scary. It's gonna... And I think back in the day, it was definitely a lot more like crazy party, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I think with generational changes, my generation's drinking less. We're getting less crazy.
Yeah.
And what you said you were in the truffle business?
So yeah, I work for an amazing company. Shout out Russell and my amazing boss Nikki. Love you. So yeah, it's a truffle products business. So we do like truffle chips, truffle oils. Soon to launch some truffle seasonings. We've just so I'm an F&B girly through and through.
And you're doing event nights as well. On the
Yeah,
side?
it's called Hotel 49A. We started off at this little private members club in Greek Street. Me, my friend Josh, Dasha, and Maurice all run the night together. And yeah, the idea behind it was to revive Soho nightlife a little bit, bring a bit of that old school glamour back to Soho. The idea is, imagine you're in the 80s, you're about to go to a fabulous nightclub, and before that, your friend is like, come with me to this amazing like loft party. And it's just the most fabulous people you've ever met. It's queer club kids. It's it's the whole spectrum of the queer community. It's the established rubbing shoulders with the next generation. It's a place for ideas to breed, and we wanted a night that looked cunty but was actually very friendly, because I know that as a queer person of color, there's been a huge amount of rooms that I personally haven't necessarily felt welcomed in or felt comfortable in. And how much of that is the truth and how much of that is my own self-perpetuated exclusion is undetermined. I don't know. I think we all tend to feel isolated and we tend to run with that and we tend to perpetuate that. But I wanted to create a room where that was never in question. You were in. It was full of diversity, and as long as you look the fucking part, you're welcome. As long as you can turn a fucking look and bring the attitude, you are welcome in our house.
That brings me on to my next question with you. Yeah. Which is dating as a person of color. How has that been?
Okay, I am perpetually single.
Okay.
Pretty boys hit my line. And I found it really tough, to be honest. But also, to be frank, if everything happens for a reason, there's a reason I've been single up until now. I've not been able to properly sustain a relationship as much as I thought I was for a very long period of time. Yeah, I don't think I would have been able to successfully maintain a relationship. Do I think that as a queer person who is brown and isn't completely like ripped, do I think the odds are stacked against me? Yes, 100%.
Does Grindr, speaking of Grindr, because you're on it, right?
I would say that I try my best to avoid it, but you know, sometimes
You get horny.
the good bitch. Well, yeah.
But I was just wondering because I remember when like not so much Grindr, but there was like Hornet and Tinder and stuff back in my day. It would very clearly say no blacks, no Asians, no hair.
It's just much quieter now. Like it's subconscious. Like people
don't put it on their profile.
People don't put it on their profile, but like Grindr and dating apps for a queer person of color is where like is a cesspit where all your confidence goes to die. Like let's be completely honest. Grindr was actually proven to be the one app people walk away feeling the worst about themselves afterwards.
Really?
Yeah. And the thing is that like, and I think that applies across the board.
Yeah.
If you don't fit a certain narrative of what is beautiful, what is exceptional in the queer community, in the gay community, let's be completely frank here, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And even with people of color, more often than not, you're only really considered like the standard of beauty you have to achieve to be considered attractive.
You have to be like
is
stunning
so much higher, and
Yeah.
also a lot of the time you need to have Eurocentric features.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is not something that's often talked about.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that I spent a lot of my youth beating myself up about that, not looking a certain way, not being a certain type of way, but often. Like, where was I looking? I was looking for validation from white people. Like, let's be completely fucking frank about it. For a long time, I was dealing with my own internalized racism. I was dealing with my own internalized version of misogyny because I wanted a masculine white man because that was everything I wasn't and everything I felt like I needed to be. Now, why am I looking for validation in rooms that I was never welcome in the first place? That's not to say that, you know, like, now I'm at a point where I will date anyone regardless of, you know, as long as I find them attractive, I find them attractive. It's not about how masculine or feminine they are. It's not about what the color of their skin is, how much fucking melanin they have.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the time we face rejection from both, but the thing is we face rejection from our own communities as well.
Yeah.
100%.
Because a lot of us deal with it and it's subconscious.
Yeah.
And the thing is a lot of the time when people talk about the fact that they are aware that there are subconscious biases which exist, they'll be like, oh, you're racist, oh, you hate yourself. And it's like, no, you're self-aware enough to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then the first part of acknowledging it, unpicking it, and changing that is being aware of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely. Because what you're saying is true. Like, you're obviously going to have hate within your communities. If you're feeling that way, then other Asian guys are feeling that way. Other black guys, they're feeling that the white is what they're going for, and therefore you're not the person that they're going
Yeah,
to be.
because it's an ideal we've been sold over and over again in our media, but also back in India, you know, being like fairer skinned, having these Eurocentric features, that's all over the beauty billboards, all over beauty ads. We have been sold whiteness.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's just how the world is, unfortunately.
It makes us more judgmental.
It does.
Like, there's people in like Jordan and stuff that will go on about how hairy I am, even though like there's hairy people in Jordan, or like your eyebrows are different, and like within the black community, like whether
the more lighter skinned you are, the more
but your hair is
in.
like expensive weave or not. Like it builds hatred within those communities as well, and I think that's the pressure from outside.
100%. And I mean, obviously, like we can get into like the nitty gritty of it. When you look back in India, for example, there was like the caste system, all of that. I'm not well educated or well versed enough to be able to give you the full breakdown on how much of that has been imported from colonialism, how much of that was pre-existing. I can't tell you that, and I'm not going to sit here and profess to be able to. What I will be able to say is, at some point, if you can't fucking love yourself, you go fucking not RuPaul, but like you need to be able to be like, okay, this is who I am. Yeah. And I love me. Yeah. And I love me for all the flaws. I love myself with the extra 5 kilos or without it. Yeah. I love myself at this skin tone or a different one. Yeah. But who I am is who I fucking am. And so guess what? Fine. The cards may be stacked against me in dating. But the cards have been stacked in my favor in a million other aspects of my life. And the cards have been stacked against me in a million other aspects in my life too, you know? Yeah. Not everything is always going to be an equal playing field. Yeah, that's true. So the choice is, fine, yes, we can do what we can, try and make people aware of it, to educate people, to unpick our own biases. But at some point it's, great, I'm going to go to where the love is. Because I don't want to have to fight for the affection or approval of someone that wasn't going to be that interested in me in the first place.
Yeah.
So do you,
I love
do
that.
you want to, like, do you want a relationship? Are you a relationship person?
Like, I would say so. Like, I want like an old school monogamous white picket fence relationship. And it's funny because I think a lot of the community will often be like, oh, you want like a nuclear kind of family that's like internalized, and I think the one beautiful thing about being queer is that we get the freedom of expression, we get the freedom of choice. We are already the other.
Yeah.
So we get to explore and live our lives in a variety of beautiful different ways.
What works for us as well.
And what works for me happens to be more aligned with a more traditional view of relationships.
Yeah.
That's not to chastise or say anything bad about other types of relationships, open ones, for example. It's just not for me. And in that freedom of choice to choose an open polyamorous relationship, for example, comes the same freedom of choice and the lack of judgment, one would hope, to choose a monogamous, kind of more traditional relationship.
Sometimes I feel like that gets knocked out of you a little bit in the queer and gay community. Like, I feel like if you want that, it is, as you're kind of saying, like, you're kind of looked in a weird way. And I feel like even when I think of like a lot of my friends that wanted that, when they've got into relationships, the other partner has been, I want to be open. And then they kind of change their whole mindset and ideologies to match that.
I think a lot of the time people grow and change and they realize that's not what they want, and maybe they do want something open. A lot of the time, open people and poly people must also feel like, oh, well, I feel judged by the rest of the world for choosing this. Beyond just our little bubble of a community.
100%.
But also, like, I think because love is often felt so scarce to us, that when we enter a relationship, especially if you're anxiously attached like I am, like, you will be willing to buck and change your principles and what actually works for you, because what you have and what you cherish is so important to you, you don't want to risk losing it. At the same time as I've grown and changed, I think if someone said to me, I'm interested in an open relationship, I'd be like, I'm really sorry that doesn't work for me now. I would love to talk about why you want an open relationship, because I'm not going to take in any type of way to mean that I'm not enough. It just means that's something that's different for you. And if it is to do with, and if you think that's the way you want a relationship, then I don't think would work together.
It's about being confident in yourself, that it's not so much a reflection on you, it's just that's what they want.
I mean, I say that, but I would probably be like, I would probably like be in tears being like, what the fuck is wrong?
I always say that. I say that to him, I'm like, if we're 50 and we want to be together and all it takes is like a one night stand with someone who's hot, we'll just go for it. Like, we'll just hire someone who's like an escort and we'll have a good time, whatever. And I'm like, but watch it actually happen and be like, why do you want an escort?
No, so real, exactly.
You don't love me anymore. But it's good to like feel like you're open minded.
Yeah, we can pretend.
Exactly. I was gonna say, lastly, do you have any, I mean, that was already quite like good, so it feels a bit weird asking it, but do you have any advice to any advice to your younger self?
To my younger self? Hold in for the fucking ride, baby, because you got this. Like, straight the fuck up. Like, you are gonna have hard fucking moments. You're gonna have moments where you literally want to fucking die. But you are a beautiful, strong, incredibly intelligent, kind, compassionate soul. And you will have moments where you doubt that. You will have moments where you think you're losing it all, but you will maintain that little bit of spark inside of you. I know the one thing that never faded, no matter what, is that I always had that little bit of hope, that little bit of spark, that little bit of delusion, whatever you want to fucking call it. And I held on to that, and that grew, and it's going to set the whole fucking world on fire. So just buckle in for the ride, because every single thing that happens to you, good or bad, is all part of this beautiful, beautiful journey that is the tapestry of your life.
Oh.
So yeah.
I love that.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
I do love that.
I hope I haven't got either of us cancelled, but like...
No.
We'll make sure it looks bad on you.
Oh, brilliant. I can't wait.
That's good.
Hi, Daily Mail.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening and watching, and make sure you like, subscribe, and join us next Monday. Bye. Bye.